Welcome back to The Short Game, episode 22. We are right in the thick of our theme week, which we are calling the Sovereign Week. This week is all about command, reality, and the heavy burden of wearing the crown. Let me guess, you are waking up every single day feeling completely exhausted. You are putting in 12-hour days, burning the midnight oil, and grinding until your eyes literally bleed, but you have absolutely nothing to show for it. I see this all the time, and it absolutely drives me insane. You think you are working hard, but you are not actually working at all. You are just swinging a heavy sword at the empty air and wondering why you are sweating. If you are a student, you are spending 4 hours highlighting your textbook with 6 different colored markers and making flashcards instead of actually sitting down and taking the brutal practice test. If you are an employee, you are spending your morning arguing with some random dude on the internet instead of building a skill that makes you undeniable. If you are looking for a job, you spend weeks tweaking your resume font without actually applying for a single position. You are actively participating in a massive costume party. You are playing dress up, pretending to be busy, and avoiding the actual uncomfortable violence of making real progress. Today, we are going to burn that stupid clown suit to the ground. I am going to give you the ancient, undefeated blueprint for ruthless efficiency. I am going to teach you how to stop wasting your finite energy on garbage, stop looking busy, and start actually landing devastating blows in whatever arena you are fighting in.
What's your name?
My name is Tom Shelby.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
King Ragnar. That is my name.
Yo soy Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria.
I'm Batman.
This is Jon Snow. He's king in the north.
My name is Asax Schrader.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Antonio Montana.
My name is Patrick Bateman.
My name is Walter Hartwell White.
My name is Gustavo, but you can call me Gus.
To do this, we are looking at the ultimate sovereign. We are diving incredibly deep into a guy who literally wrote the book on winning, by any means necessary. I am talking about Miyamoto Musashi and his legendary text, The Book of Five Rings. If you do not know who Musashi is, grab a beer and let me paint a vivid picture for you. He was a 17th century Japanese samurai, considered by many to be one of the most skilled swordsmen in history. This guy was an absolute savage from day one. He fought his first duel to the death at 13 years old, striking down a strategist named Arima Kihei. By age 29, he had fought in over 60 duels against various schools. He never lost a single one of those 60 encounters. 60-0, and we are not talking about fighting for points in a padded ring. He was fighting for his actual life, over and over again, against grown men who wanted to bury him. When you're in the daily business of life and death, you drop the bullshit very quickly. At age 50, Musashi realized the true way of strategy, and a decade later he climbed Mount Iwado to write down his entire philosophy. He did not use academic jargon, and he certainly did not use modern therapy speak to coddle your feelings. He wrote a brutally practical, unforgiving guide for real operators. He broke his teachings down into 5 distinct sections. The ground book lays the foundation, mapping strategy like a straight road mapped out on the ground. The water book teaches you to make your spirit perfectly fluid, adapting like water to any shape or situation. The fire book is about the fierce, explosive reality of fast combat and making quick decisions. The wind book ruthlessly exposes the flawed, superficial traditions of all the other martial schools of his time. And finally, the book of the void teaches you to strike naturally, completely free from any hesitation or bewilderment. The core angle of Musashi's entire philosophy can be perfectly summed up in the 9th rule he lays out in the ground book. He explicitly wrote, "Do nothing which is of no use." That single sentence is the absolute distilled essence of the strike. Musashi looked around at the other martial arts schools of his time, and he literally laughed at them. He saw these guys getting obsessed with how their sword forms looked to the spectators on the sidelines. He saw men selling their arts, turning combat into a theatrical performance just to make a quick buck. He called them out for showing off their technique and looking for profit instead of looking for the actual kill. He said it was like caring more about the decorative flower than the nutritious nut that actually sustains you. If a technique did not directly result in the enemy being cut down, Musashi threw it straight in the trash. In the ground book, he compared a master strategist to a foreman carpenter. A foreman carpenter does not waste his precious time staring at pretty but structurally weak pieces of wood. He uses straight, unknotted timber of good appearance for the revealed pillars. He takes the weak, or knotted timber and uses it for scaffolding or firewood. He assigns his men to tasks based purely on their actual ability, not their fragile egos. If a guy has poor ability, you do not let him build the roof. You make him lay the floor joists or carve wedges. You use every single resource exactly where it is most effective, and you waste absolutely nothing. Musashi understood that true strategy is not about rigid stances, having a favorite weapon, or looking imposing. In fact, he completely despised the idea of having a favorite weapon. He wrote that becoming overfamiliar with one weapon is just as much of a massive fault as not knowing it sufficiently well. If you are stuck inside a confined space, the best use is the short companion sword. If you are at the commencement of a battle on a wide open moor, the bow is tactically strong. From inside fortifications, the gun has no equal and is the supreme weapon before the ranks clash. But the second the swords are crossed and the gun becomes useless, you drop it without a single second thought. You do not get romantic about your tools, and you do not let your personal preferences blind you to the reality of the situation. He criticized other schools for relying on extra long swords, trying to win from a distance because they had a weak spirit. He said relying on an extra long sword when forced to fight in a confined house will get you killed. You have to train your mind to identify exactly what is required in the present moment and deploy the exact right tool to execute the strike. This absolute pragmatism extended to the very way he moved his feet. Musashi hated all the fancy, nimble footwork taught by other dojos. He specifically wrote that he disliked floating foot, jumping foot, springing foot, and treading foot. He said there is no real justification for jumping around like an idiot during a fight. Instead, he commanded his students to always walk as they usually do in the street, maintaining total control. Whether moving fast or slow, your feet must always move naturally, treading firmly with your heels. Even when looking at the enemy, he taught a twofold gaze of perception and sight, stating that perception is strong and sight is weak. You must gaze at the man's heart, not get distracted by the insignificant, shiny movements of his sword. But the most profound lesson from Musashi, and the one that completely changed how I operate, is his distinction between slashing and cutting. Listen to me very closely right now, because this is where 99% of you are failing in your daily lives. In the Water Book, Musashi explicitly wrote that slashing is nothing more than just touching the enemy. He said that even if you slash strongly, and even if the enemy dies instantly from that slash, it is still just slashing. But when you cut, your spirit is completely and utterly resolved. Cutting is final, authoritative, intentional, and brutally decisive. Most of you out there are just slashing at your goals. You are doing fake work, touching your projects lightly without the violently resolved spirit required to actually move the needle. You are just making contact with your tasks, hoping something magically falls over in your favor so you can call it a win. A sovereign does not slash. A sovereign cuts. Musashi said the primary thing when you take a sword in your hands is your pure intention to cut the enemy, whatever the means. Whatever the means. He did not care about the proud tradition of the house or the elegant style of the martial stance. He only cared about the strike. If you are reading a book, but not absorbing a single word, you are just slashing. If you are sitting in the gym, looking at your phone for 20 minutes between sets, you are just slashing. You must become someone who cuts. Let us connect the dots directly to reality, starting with how I run things at my company, NexYear. At NexYear, I do not participate in the circus of modern marketing where people blast out 100,000 spam emails hoping for a 0.01% conversion rate. That is the literal definition of swinging at the air and pretending you are doing real work. That is just slashing, and honestly, it is pathetic. When we want the attention of a massive VIP, we operate completely differently. When we are targeting a CEO who has a calendar guarded by a team of absolute pit bulls, we do not send useless promotional garbage. Do you honestly think a highly successful operator cares about a cheap plastic pen with your little startup logo printed on it? Sending that cheap garbage just so you can check a box and say you did marketing is a completely wasted strike. It goes straight from the corporate mailroom into the trash can. It is sloppy, it is weak, and it is the exact strategy of a clown. Instead, at NexYear, we use advanced physical logistics to deploy one single, high-end, strategic, physical asset directly to their hands. We send something so undeniably valuable that it forces their attention and violently cuts through the endless noise of 1,000 automated pitches. We execute a direct, undeniable physical strike on the target, bypassing all the fluff. That is how a real operator does business, but this mindset goes way beyond just running a company. This brings us to our third core value, which is the universal sovereign standard. A king fiercely protects his energy and his resources at all costs. It does not matter if you are trying to lose 50 pounds, get straight A's in college, or build a billion-dollar company. Total, ruthless efficiency is the only possible way to rule your domain. If you have an action in your daily routine that does not actively move the needle, you have to cut it without hesitation. I absolutely hate bad drivers. I hate incompetence, and I despise people who waste their finite time on this earth doing things that do not matter. If you go to the gym just to take selfies and do random bicep curls, you are not lifting. You are hanging out. If you reread the same chapter while watching Netflix, you are not studying. You are just keeping your eyes open. You have to look at your daily actions the exact same way Musashi looked at a bloody duel on a riverbank. You must constantly ask yourself, is this action actually going to help me win? Or is this action just a useless flourish that leaves me exposed? Musashi taught that you must completely suppress the enemy's useful actions, but freely allow his useless actions. Let your competitors waste their precious time on useless actions. Let the other students stress over the font on their title page while you memorize the actual formulas. Let the other guys do fancy cable exercises while you stick to the brutal compound lifts that build mass. So, here's the blunt directive for today, and I want you to take this incredibly seriously. Take a brutally honest, unfiltered look at your life. Look at the goals you claim you want to achieve, and then look at the actions you took today. What fake work are you doing right now that you need to eliminate today? Stop trying to look busy for the applause of the crowd. Drop the fancy routines, drop the fake work, and start actually landing blows. I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay dangerous.